All right, we're going to get started. I want to thank everyone for coming here, particularly thank Governor Rauner for being with us here today. My name is Juan Salgado. I'm the president and CEO of the Instituto del Progreso Latino. We also operate the Instituto Health Sciences Career Academy Charter School. Governor was so kind to come here today to actually visit, listen to our students, understand their amazing stories and experiences and the perseverance they have towards their goals in the future, which are quite inspiring, right? And we welcome everyone to come by at any time. I want to thank Governor Rauner before I turn it over to him for, first of all, the school does not have a gymnasium. Our actual gymnasium is the Rauner Family YMCA. That's where our school teams play. It's worked out quite well, and we want to thank you in advance for your contributions to the Rauner Family YMCA. I want to thank you for your belief in school choice. This school would not be around if it were not for a movement towards creating school choice. This creative idea of having a health sciences career academy where we actually work with industry, where our kids actually get real-world experiences and they can learn about healthcare in the context of everyday classroom experiences and everyday classroom curriculum is made possible because we have an environment of school choice. And on behalf of those parents and those students that chose this school as their school, I want to thank you as well, Governor Rauner, for, again, your support for school choice. And also for your recent announcement that you want to increase funding for education. I think that's so important. Our schools need resources, especially at this time when we need to remain competitive in our local economy, and our kids need to be propelled into careers that matter. And so without further ado, I'm going to turn over to Governor Rauner. Once again, Governor, thank you for joining us today. We really appreciate your presence here today, and you're welcome to come here anytime in the future.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Juan. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us this morning. This is an exciting visit because I believe the Instituto here can be a role model for what we should do more of around the state of Illinois. When you look at this facility, it's not fancy, it's not extravagant, but it's uplifting, it's positive, it's bright, and if you notice the open windows and looking to downtown, it's for the students something to aspire to. They're not stuck in a particular location, they're not stuck in a neighborhood. They can be anything they want to be, they can go wherever they want to go. It's a very, very inspirational place. Most schools put their school cafeteria in the basement. It's dark, a little bit smelly, not real positive. Here, it's at the top. The students gather and can socialize and visit, and they look at downtown Chicago. Beautiful, great careers there, located there, high-paying careers there. Very inspirational, aspirational type of environment. And this gets created through innovative thinking. This is what we need more of in our school system. I'm a strong believer in school choice, as the leader here has indicated. Juan Salgado is a MacArthur Genius Grant awardee. He's thinking outside the box. We need more entrepreneurs. We need more innovation in our school system. If we combine innovation and new leadership along with more resources in our schools, we can have the best schools in the world here in Chicago and in every community throughout Illinois. As you all know, we're fighting to get more resources into our schools. It's a tragedy that Illinois is dead last. We're number 50 out of 50 for state support for education. It's unconscionable to me, inexcusable, and this has been true for a long time. We need to put more state resources into our schools so our teachers can be properly supported. We overly rely on local property taxes to fund our schools. That means that lower income neighborhoods struggle with fewer resources to put behind their teachers. And that denies the American dream to every student. Students from lower income families get stuck with fewer resources in their schools and often, as a result, inferior schools because they don't have adequate support. We need to change that system. And we are beginning that process. Well, first and foremost, we're going to, just like we did last year, we increased state support for education. We're going to increase it again this year to fully fund the foundation level. We haven't been there in 7 years. And that's just a first step. Every year, we want to put more resources into our schools so we have the best schools in America. The other step we're taking, get the bureaucracy out of the school building. We need less regulation, less restriction. We need to free up our teachers to be able to teach. We need fewer mandates. We need fewer regulations. We need teachers to be able to teach as they see what's best for their students in their communities. Most important thing. As a leader here, as Juan said a few minutes ago when he told me with more resources, where would he put it? Obviously support our teachers, but he said something that's really important I strongly agree with. He put more resources into the other support network for the students, psychological support, counseling support, health support, because the challenges that these students have to overcome every day in their lives to be able to get in the classroom and study and learn is pretty overwhelming. And that's one of the reasons that we just created the Governor's Cabinet for Children and Youth. We have 15 state departments that touch our young people in different elements of their life. We need to coordinate that, better focus it. So when we interact with a student who needs support, healthcare, counseling, potentially, unfortunately, sometimes justice issues, corrections issues. When we have the government touching a student, we should be coordinating that effort so we can maximize the impact with the students. For example, right now we have a dozen different databases about students. And if a student touches one department, another department doesn't even know that there's that interaction going on. And they can't impact and benefit each other by coordinating the services that student needs to realize their full potential. We need more coordination, we need less bureaucracy, more efficiency, and more money in the classroom to support our students. If we do that, every student can realize their fullest potential, and we can have great schools and students ready to step into great careers in every neighborhood.
Governor, I'd like to ask you a question about the race for president. Donald Trump this morning is threatening the owners of the Chicago Cubs. He tweets, "I hear the Ricketts family, who own the Chicago Cubs, are secretly spending millions against me. You better be careful. They have a lot to hide." Isn't that inappropriate, race for president, to target political spending? I mean, you're no stranger to that. You funded a couple PACs for good government.
The race for president has been a very wild process, and I specifically have not commented on any of it. I'm focused on getting Illinois strong and prosperous. I do not comment on the presidential election.
Governor, can you talk about the investigation in the CPS, how that would work, or whether the Board of Education even has the authority to do that, which CPS says they don't?
Yeah, so the State Board of Education clearly has the authority to do a financial investigation of school districts. That is crystal clear. I don't know who might be saying contrary, but that's crystal clear. Not only is the State Board of Education investigating CPS, there are also 5 other school districts that are currently being investigated. Edwardsville's one, but there are a number around the state. And as we've discussed in the past, the State Board of Education has stepped in to do either interim management or a new board in financially troubled school districts in the past. I believe it's about a half a dozen school districts. This is not new. This is not, this is not some scary thing. This is part of state law, and it exists for a reason. We've got to protect our students and our teachers in the classroom. And when a school district gets in financial trouble, and has experienced financial mismanagement and irresponsible decision-making, which various school districts have shown in the past, and Chicago seems to be demonstrating right now. We have a duty to evaluate what's going on in that school district, learn the facts, and then decide what's appropriate action to take from there. As we have discussed, Chicago is exempted. When I've looked at the law, Chicago is exempted. The State Board of Education does not have the ability to unilaterally step in and take control of the school district. The State Board does have that ability in every other school district, not in Chicago. Some lawyers disagree with me on that. They say, no, Chicago is still subject to state oversight. I personally don't think that's true, but I'll let that's a legal fight to be had. At this point, we're not recommending that the state take any particular action yet. We do want to be ready. We've asked the State Board of Education to begin to think about who could lead the school district if it needed to be restructured, if the state board decided that there was financial duress. And again, contrary to what some elected officials have said, when they've accused me or others of trying to block bond offerings or making statements that were really not designed for anything other than to hurt a bond offering, completely false. The simple fact is the State Board of Education, if it chose to, if it determined that any school district was in financial duress, the State Board has the right, the legal authority to block any debt offerings. They have the ability to block any bond offerings and any debt offerings. The State Board has not ever chosen to do that for the city of Chicago. I hope that never becomes necessary, but we've got to be ready to take action and step in.
Governor,
Yes.
the CPS has, of course, responded to what you've been saying, and part of what they said was, we are more than happy to share our financial information with the governor, but frankly, he should start with his own budget to treat poor minority students in Chicago and around the state like second-class citizens.
Well, let's try to break that pretty outrageous statement apart. I've been criticized by Superintendent Claypool and also Mayor Emanuel for supporting a indefensible system, I think was the phrase, something like that. I did not create the school funding formula. I just got here. This has been in place for decades, and you know who created it? Speaker Madigan and the Democrats in the General Assembly. They created the school funding formula more than 20 years ago. It's not me. I've never liked the school funding formula. I didn't create it. I've said I want to change it, but these things take time. The first step in the process is to start funding our schools at higher levels. Again, the General Assembly, under Speaker Madigan, for years, cut school funding. I've fought to increase school funding, and the first step to changing our formula is to go back to 100% of the foundation level, which we haven't been at in years. So at a base level to start, let's go to the foundation level first, and then let's talk about how we should change the overall system. I am up for that. I've said it. I'm supportive, and we're going to lead that effort. Speaker Madigan, to be clear, Speaker Madigan has resisted efforts to reform the state funding formula for years. For many years. He's blocked efforts, and the Democrats in the General Assembly created the current system and have blocked changing the system for many, many years. Now everybody this year is yelling at me. They're saying, Governor, you change it. I would love to change it. There's a lot of things I want to change. We got to change a lot, but somehow I'm new, and it's all my fault, and I'm the defender of it. I mean, good grief. We got to start dealing with reality here.
Governor,
Yes.
you talk about funding schools and education. You're at an elementary school.
That's a high school.
High school, yes. A lot of students in higher education say they would like the same support as well.
Yes.
What do you say to those students, especially with the veto of the Senate bill recently, students who are looking for MAP grant funds, and universities who say they're struggling?
Yes, well, I say that it's unconscionable that we don't have a budget. I'm sorry for that. Speaker Madigan and his legislators that he controls have spent the money that should be going to our MAP grants in our university system. They've defended a current spending program at the state level that's unaffordable, unsustainable, and the money that should be going to our universities, where I would like to put it, and should be going to our MAP grants, where I would like to put it, has already been spent by Speaker Madigan and President Cullerton and the Democrats in the General Assembly. That, to me, is wrong. What I am now fighting for is next year, because the money's already been spent for this year, I'm fighting for next year to make sure our K-12 schools are our top priority. We'll be bringing in about $33 billion now going forward, $33 billion per year. First priority should be K-12 schools. Second priority should be our early education system for our low-income students, so they can get, when their brains are first being developed, when they're 2, 3, 4, 5 years old, they deserve to have a great educational experience, so when they get to kindergarten, they're ready to thrive. And from there are many things that we will try to fully fund. I personally am a big advocate for our university system. I want the best in America. I want a fully funded MAP grant program. I'm a huge supporter of scholarships for low-income kids. Right now, I've proposed 2 ways to fix our current funding formula for universities. We can't just send the money that we don't have. That's not an option. I've said one way to fund the MAP grants, and the bill's been introduced. Let's fund our MAP grants right now by doing procurement reform with it, so we've got $500 million freed up that we can put in our MAP grants so we can pay for it. Very straightforward, very doable. The legislature said no. No reform, just authorize spending cash that we don't have. Doesn't work. The other thing I've said is, I would like to fund our universities right today. Let's pass the Unbalanced Budget Response Act that frees me up to reallocate resources and make some cuts, and I'll put the money into our university system and into our MAP grants. The Speaker Madigan and his legislators that he controls have said no reforms, just authorize spending that we don't have. That doesn't work. And when President Cullerton has said in the press, the The governor has the ability. We'll pass a big spending bill that has a deficit. All he needs to do is line item out to balance it. That's not true. I need you guys to understand that is not true. There are ongoing appropriations that are locked in that I can't change without the legal authority. There are continuing appropriations, court orders, and there's many things that are not on the table that need to be on the table. So that's why we need that Unbalanced Budget Response Act.
Are universities just out of luck right now while this stalemate is going on?
Well, they're not out of luck. They're out of Speaker Madigan control right now. What's happened is he won't do any reforms. I could get them the money right now if we could do the reforms and free me up with the Unbalanced Budget Response Act. We should be doing that today. So far, the Speaker says no. He's blocking virtually everything we're trying to do.
Governor, why don't you tell us what you'd cut? You gave us a budget with $3.5 billion worth of line items that you say you're ready to cut, but you won't tell us what they are. And altogether, the budget, I mean, as you said when we talked last month, the budget's about the state is spending $5 or $6 billion more than it's taking in. So what's your plan?
So my plan is to get reforms so we can grow our economy. That's got to be our number one priority. We will never solve our problems long term if we don't grow. And the simple fact is, if we had grown at the national average the last 15 years, just the average, which we should be able to do way better than, just grow at the national average of states, we wouldn't have needed the 2011 tax hike, we wouldn't have any unpaid bills, we would have a surplus, and we could be putting billions more into our universities and our K-12 schools. We need pro-growth reforms. That's my first choice. If I have to make cuts, I will. As I've indicated, I will do those. My first choice is to do that in partnership with the Democrats. So we together decide which are the priorities to cut. If they won't do that with me, I'll have to take unilateral action if they'll authorize me. Right now I can't, even though President Cullerton has said I can just cut what I want with a line item. I can't cut things that have continuing appropriations and that are locked into spending by law. There are things being spent by law that I can't change. I need to be freed up to be able to do that.
Why would the General Assembly give you that authority? Why wouldn't you spell out kind of what it is that you would want to cut in order to give them the
Because this is a partnership. This is something that we've got to do together. There are many ideas on the table of things to cut. The best answer is bipartisan decision making on that process.
You're not spelling it out in order to force them to the table to do it with you?
Everything we do should be on a bipartisan basis.
Well, why not?
It hasn't been a partnership up to now.
That's exactly. We got to change that. We've got to change that.
There must be some things you've seen that you could say right to us today, well, there's $3 billion there I can find by eliminating this or that.
We proposed a bunch of things last year in a budget. We proposed a budget last year. It was completely ignored. My point is, let's not just reproduce what happened last year. Let's just not do that again.
What are some of the...
I listed some things out last year. They got ignored. So you can go study them. You can go study them. Yes. Just a second.
Governor, Speaker Madigan said pushback to a millionaire's tax on education is quote part of a Republican extreme agenda to argue that. How would you respond?
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question?
Speaker Madigan says pushback to a millionaire's tax on education is part of a quote Republican extreme agenda to argue that. How would you respond to that?
You know, the reforms that we've been proposing are common sense. They're bipartisan. Most other states have done major components of the agenda that we've advocated. And one state I picked out as just one example is the state of Massachusetts, completely Democratic control. They've reformed their workers' comp, so their costs are average now. If we had average workers' comp costs, not the lowest in America, just the average, we could bring back thousands of manufacturing jobs to this state, which are good-paying, high-quality jobs. The state of Massachusetts has taken health care out of collective bargaining for government employees. Hundreds of millions of dollars of taxpayer savings as a result. The Speaker says, well, that's taking things out of collective bargaining is extreme. We could never do that. Well, the Democrats in Massachusetts did it. And by the way, Mr. Speaker, the Speaker and his caucus have taken dozens of things out of collective bargaining when they decided that they wanted to. They've taken the length of school day, the length of school year, outside contracting for services at CPS, many other things out of collective bargaining. And right now, the mayor of Chicago has asked to take the teacher's pension contribution out of collective bargaining so it could be imposed on the teachers. Somehow, when it's convenient for the Speaker and his caucus to make these reforms, it's fine. If I recommend it, it's extreme, or it's radical, or it's just baloney. That's just spin on the Speaker's part. Yes?
Why, for the second year in a row, did you not attend the National Governors Association legislation meetings at the White House today. They're discussing heroin and federal funding for state programs, and there's many people concerned that Illinois is being left off by your president's not being there.
We have key leaders from our team there. I've got my focus here in Illinois, and we've got a lot going on. We've got legislator negotiations going on right now on budget issues and reform issues. I've got a lot on my plate, and our team can learn about what the ideas are that the NGA is discussing. They're there. Our team's there.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it.